Hola, SAP developers. Before we start, I just want to let you know that please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat, but also there will be a special Q&A section at the end. Welcome to this session, part of the Oktoberfest 2025 integration track. This is the last session of the day, and this is a session that I'm really interested in, as I know that we'll be learning a lot, and everything involves APIs, events, metadata, data products, catalogs, and how to make sense of all of it. So today we have Simon and Pavel, who are part of the team behind the Open Resource Discovery, which is an open protocol for decentralized application service metadata, publishing, and discovery. Without any further delay, hola Simon, hola Pavel, over to you guys.
Yeah, hi everyone. So thank you for joining our session. I'm Pavel Kornev. I'm software architect in Central Architecture team. My main focus on API metadata and all related topics around API, including ORD, Open API. I'm representing SAP in Open API Technical Steering Committee. And here's Simon joining me. Simon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Simon here. I'm also working with Pavel on cross-product architecture topics, mostly in how we bring APIs, data products, and AI together right now.
And today we would like to talk about how we build well-connected metadata catalogs across silos at SAP. But before we start, I would like to give you some idea what is SAP. I mean, everyone knows what is SAP because it's the Oktoberfest from SAP, but still we want to give you some numbers. So the idea behind SAP, it helps big companies to run better. But at the same time, SAP became a big company itself. And today we have more than 100K employees around the world. So we generate some revenue. So we have development teams in more than 100 locations across the world. And also we have more than 1,200 products. And what we also calculated, which is relevant to our talk and what we're going to talk about, is how many APIs do we have? We have around about 5,000 APIs. And in those APIs, we have operations, and we have around 57,000 public operations. And this is only public operations, so we not talk about internal APIs and internal endpoints. So we have a lot. And then comes the challenge, right? So what's the problem with all this? So things needs to work to each other with each other and integrate seamlessly. So one problem is, so the company grows and we introduce obviously new APIs. At the same time, we also acquire companies from time to time, and we need to integrate things in our ecosystem. So if you do these integrations point to point, this would look like that, right? Like one provider of metadata would integrate with the consumer with a direct integration, and then the complexity would be quadratic. So it doesn't really scale without having aligned standard. So this reminds the problem we had with cables for our devices. So I still have box with in my basement with those cables. So for different phones I had in the past, right? So and these days, what we think about, so how we can simplify this problem and how we can think of this. So if we have a line standard like with USB-C, so the complexity goes down already. So but we can think forward on that and even bring some connection aggregator point or hub in the middle. So then we can reach like linear complexity of integrations. And we will talk about that later, how we approach it at SAP and what we came up with. So this is one of the aspect of the problems, right? So like integration, point-to-point integrations. And another problem is catalogs. So it's not only we develop new APIs and acquire companies with the APIs and things like that, but also technology is not stopping, so it's evolving. And things like AI with A2A or MCP are in the hype right now, or data products. So these things appear in technology landscape, right? So we don't want to change the base foundation, how we share metadata between our services and applications for every, let's say, high technology which appears. And we want to have a solid foundation which is extensible enough and allows us to quickly adopt those standards and new metadata standards we have to express the services. So, and what we thought about, so what if we have shared protocol, and using this shared protocol, we can connect things together, we can extend things if we need to, and then we can form some sort of metadata graph, which is well connected, easily to explore, and easier to understand for our customers and products. So, and we came up with open research discovery. So, Simon.
Simon, you're on mute, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
Thanks. Okay, and ORD, Open Resource Discovery, is basically our idea how the central shared protocol could look like. Let me show you how it starts. It basically starts by understanding our applications and services better, because this is where really the interesting parts for integration live. So the obvious things are our APIs, right? So on the right-hand side, you see we might have OData APIs. We have them a lot in the SAP ecosystem, but we also have REST APIs. And they are described also using different formats, like OpenAPI for REST. OData is described as EDMX. Pavel already mentioned the AI protocol, so MCP is basically another protocol that came up, or A2A for agents, which also comes with its own description format with the agent cards. And no one would know this better, what APIs are there, than the application itself, basically. Very similar are events, which are kind of an async API, and that's also a standard async API to describe them. Beyond the APIs, there are more things we are interested in. So generally, there could be capabilities that we are interested in, like can this application replicate master data, and also data products. So if we want to treat data like its own thing, like its own product, we might also want to describe it as such if the application hosts it. We might also be interested in something we call integration dependencies. So if this application also needs resources from a different application. And that's how we also understand how things can be put together in practice later. To bring this all together, there's obviously taxonomy. And taxonomy is how we package things for catalogs, how we assign them to the same groups. Basically, groups is a way to create taxonomy and apply it, a very versatile one. And entity types is, we often call that business objects or domain objects. So how we assign things to also business terminology. So because one company doesn't have just one application, it's usually something which we need to combine together. And that works the following way. So in the previous slide, you've seen we added one entry point here for the application, which is the ORD provider API. And this is basically another very lightweight API where we can find out all of this, right? So all of the APIs, events, and how to get the metadata. And those applications all provide this endpoint. And then we can introduce this hub that Pavel mentioned, the aggregator, which connects to all the applications we need to have described, and it asks them, yeah, what do you offer? And it can automatically crawl all the description as it's currently looking. So always the latest state, basically. And we can do this for two use cases. So we can do it for a static description, which I will show you later, is we use at SAP with the API Hub. So a generic offering what our company offers as APIs, events, data products, and so on. And we can put that all into one catalog. But we are also interested in understanding the runtime system landscape. And that is because our products are often very customizable and extensible. And a customer actual system landscape, which you see here, is something where the customer might not have every system we offer, but they have heavily customized it and even bought some products more than once. And our customers wants to understand how it really looks like for them after they worked with it and customized it. And we can use the same protocol to find this also out at runtime. So if you are now interested in this matter, this is what we call a consumer. And consumers can then just go to the aggregator. And this comes from the problem statement before. There's now just one place where they can find everything in one API. So a consumer can find all of our APIs no matter which product they come from. But ORD is still a decentralized protocol. So a consumer could also directly peer-to-peer ask an application how it looks like in case we don't have an aggregator or we don't want one. And since it's a specification, let me show you how it looks like. So it's basically, I think it's linked now in the YouTube chat. This is basically a open source specification, now owned by the Linux Foundation. It's part of the NeoNet program and funded by the European Union to some part. And if you want to get started, it's a good place would be obviously overview or reading the primer, which is like this presentation but written out. And another good way to get started, which I will show you, is if you have a look at the ORD reference application, which I will show you now in the slides to make it a bit shorter. So the way how the protocol works is basically the following. We start with looking at one application. And this application, as you can see here, it has some APIs, it has some events. For example, an astronomy API. But how would we know this, right? And the way how we know it is by using something called a well-known URI. So there's a well-known open resource discovery URI I can just attach to the URL of the system. And if I get a valid response here, I'm getting an ORD config. And this ORD config tells me that I have ORD documents which describe the application. So here you can see one link. This is how the one of the documents. It also tells me how I can get it. So this is open access. So I can just create a GET request. I don't need authentication. I can just learn more directly. Now I get an ORD document, and this is where we now learn about the resources and the taxonomy. So for example, we can describe what product this application is, and we see now a list of API resources. And this includes, for example, the astronomy API. So that's how we learn that it exists. It also gets an ORD ID, which is a globally unique ID, including namespaces, which ensures that even though we are decentralized, we don't get conflicts when we put it into a global catalog. And then we have a lot of properties that we need for building a catalog and doing proper lifecycle management, like short description, long description, version, when was it last updated? Is it publicly available or is it something internal? Is it actively released? And then which API protocol was used? So this could be plain REST, it could be OData, GraphQL, whatever we use. And to learn more about it, this is where ORD will end, right? So it will not reinvent standards like OpenAPI. Instead, we just say there's a resource definition. It's basically saying, if you want to learn more, have a look here. And we see, okay, it's described using OpenAPI in version 3. It's a JSON file, and you can find it at this URL. And by the way, you can also access it just openly, so you don't need credentials. So let's try that. And we follow the link, and now we get the OpenAPI definition of the API. And what I did here is basically the role of a metadata crawler. So I can now repeat this with the next API, basically everything I'm interested in. And because we do this, basically we can build a unified and well-connected catalog for everything that is integration related. So we have APIs in there, we can describe events, we can describe data products, and also for AI use cases, we now support the most relevant AI protocols, MCP and A2A in our ecosystem. And I think the nice thing here is, because this is all driven by an API and a specification that tells you how to access the metadata, the discovery can be fully automated and be done in real time behind the scenes. And that reduces the problem that the description of the API gets out of sync with the reality of the API implementation. So I think many people who work with APIs know that problem. You get a spec, you implement the spec, and then you realize the API doesn't look like the spec, right? So I have to figure it out what changed. Maybe the spec isn't up to date. And we can fully automate that and eliminate these kinds of problems. And because it's fully automated, we can do this at runtime. And we can ask tenants, so actually running systems, how they look like right now, including how they have been customized and extended. And that's why we can use the same standard to also not just build static catalogs, but also understand the actual landscape of the customer. And I hope this came across. So ORD is complementary to the existing standards, so we are not reinventing anything new here. So it's all using OpenAPI, Async API, the standards you already know behind the scenes. It just helps you discover them and knowing that they are there and where they are. And ORD is also extensible. So if you need to attach your own metadata on it, there are extensibility constructs, so you can make it use it for your own purposes too, without standardizing everything officially. Okay, and because we have this, we can basically share the discovery protocol and our metadata integration structure and how we do governance all across the technologies and even different concepts like data products or APIs, because we don't want to rebuild it for each new technology, like Pavel mentioned in the beginning. So, and now I want to give you a quick overview how we used it at SAP. So far we have talked about it in general. So in SAP, we basically have the reference landscape, which shows you everything we offer statically. And the catalog we use for that is the SAP Business Accelerator Hub. I will show you it later again. And many probably don't know it, but we also have something we call the customer system landscape. And it is a service behind the scenes that you might know from this SAP Business Technology Platform that will figure out what products are running in your landscape. It knows your destinations that you've set up. It knows your runtimes. It knows what products you bought. And it will discover all of that. And then it will ask the applications about more metadata. And if they support ORD, they can describe itself. And the unified customer landscape or unified metadata service, they will store the metadata, and you can see it in your BTP system landscape, basically. This is not where it stops. So just having the metadata doesn't bring the value, right? So we use this metadata for many of our products. And this is, for example, Business Data Cloud, because it needs to show you which data products you could have and which ones you provisioned. And this is using this architecture. If you have SAP Build, which is basically low-code, no-code tools from SAP, it's very nice if you can just build against the API contracts from the SAP systems. Either those published in API Hub, which is the generic perspective, or if you want to build against your own customizations, you can also build against the metadata of your actual systems as they have been customized. Our event hub also uses it because it needs to know which events are really there in the landscape. And currently we are also working on improving, getting our AI and Joule architecture using more metadata to make it better. So the static catalog is basically the SAP Business Accelerator Hub. And I will very quickly show you this, because it will show you that this is very much what we talked about. So you can see I can go to one product like S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, and you see there's many kinds of contents you're interested in. And if we are interested in APIs, you see that there's also OData, there's REST, there's delta sharing. And as you can see, we have them all in one catalog, and they always are described similarly. So our customers don't have to hunt their contracts and their documentation in different pages. We have them all in one. If you want events, same thing. And data products and so on, right? So you can see that in API Hub, this is very visible. So, and if we go now to an API, sorry. You can see basically the same information that we usually have done in ORD. So like the status, the API type, which version, and so on. Okay, with that, I briefly also show you how this looks like in the BTP cockpit. Here, just a screenshot to not take too much time. So you can go to your global account, go to system landscape in here. And if you go to systems, you will also see your discovered systems. And if they have ORD enabled, you will also see which APIs you have. And that's actually then how you configured your system. Okay, and with that, I would hand back to Pavel.
All right. So, am I audible?
Yep, loud and clear.
So, yeah, so ORD is our secret sauce, how applications and services exchange metadata between each other and using aggregators. But I want to say a couple of words about adoption and tooling. Like creating specification is not enough. So, and we create a bunch of tooling to foster ORD adoption inside the company. And we also already open sourced a bunch of tooling to our ORD GitHub organization. For example, if CAP framework resonates you, so there is ORD CAP plugin, which helps you to enable ORD well-known endpoint in your CAP application, for instance. But today I would like to talk about two tools which help us to ensure metadata quality at a large scale in the SAP, because metadata quality is very important to us internally and also to our customers. And first tool I would like to talk validator. So we developed validator. So because ORD, as you saw, Simon showed you, so it's a JSON of arbitrary format, and there are tons of ways how you implement this. And you may make a mistake in one or another property, right? So therefore you need validation. So you need to ensure what your service expose is the right thing and that it will be consumable by others. So that's why we built this tool. So this tool supports ORD protocol itself, but also it supports all the protocols which are linked from ORD. So again, ORD, it's not a replacement for existing protocols like OpenAPI, Async API, GraphQL, and so on. It builds on top. So it creates like a facade from where you can find out the definition files of your APIs. And using the validator, so we have now one tool which can validate from top to down. So the validator tool obviously could be run as a CLI. We have a bunch of integration options, Docker image, NPM package, also some HTTP server. And we encourage our development teams and also partners who would use validator to ensure the metadata quality they publish on our business hub are fulfilling the best standards to run it locally. So, I mean, the idea of validator to run it locally or run it in CI/CD pipeline. And of course, when things get published to our central locations like aggregators, so exactly the same validator, the same tooling is used to ensure the quality. So we call it shift left. So you of course need to ensure it early in development lifecycle, but yeah, once it gets to publishing, it will be validated and again, and it's better that let me phrase it this way, to allow seamless publishing experience. So you do it in your CI/CD pipeline. So again, this project is not open sourced yet, so we plan to open source it towards end of this year as part of also APERA, or like European Union funded project. And it will be part of Linux Foundation on the Neo-Nefos organization. So, but let me give you some example and how this validation works, right? So to also, when we develop such tools, the important is developer experience. And this is very important to us because if tool is difficult to use, nobody will use it. And for this purpose, we also build UI component. So to try out such a validator tool internally and later externally, people won't need to register somewhere. You can just open it up in the browser and paste the metadata file and see results. So, and here we have some built-in examples, but let me show you first the UI here. So we have some policy concept, and this is also part of ORD. So think of policies like set of rules, like rule sets with rules inside. So, and if I have one policy selected, so what you could see here the rules inside this policy, right? So as you could see, this SAP Core V1 policy contains more than 100 rules, but those are rules for all kind of documents the validator supports. But if I select some example like Open API file, for instance, you see the panel shows exact rules which are applicable for this kind of document. And this is about developer experience, right? So I can immediately see which rules I need to follow. And if there are problems, they will appear on the right panel. So if I select stricter compliance level, policy level, I would see the problems here. As a developer or engineer, I can scroll through the problems. I can click on the problem to navigate to a specific line. I can open the help documentation for this specific rule to understand better what is required. I can read the description. I can see the valid example, invalid example to better understand what is required from me and what needs to be done. So yeah, this is about developer experience, and this is what we why we developed this. So, but we thought, okay, can we make it even better? So, and if I switch back to a previous compliance level, so as you could see, our metadata files, they contain lots of description fields. And yeah, those descriptions, this is what we see also in aggregator UIs. They're rendered on the tiles, they're rendered on the pages, and they're important. It's important that they're very good written, that do not contain issue like grammar mistakes, typos, also use product taxonomy in the right way and things like that. And yeah, with static validation, it's kind of difficult to achieve, but we thought, okay, how can we solve this problem? And we brought up and introduced in our validator just recently LLM-powered validation rules. And this is what I would like to show you. So, for example, so we have this description field for this API. And imagine I have some typos. I miss some letters. I use some offensive language, double spaces, things like that. From static validation point of view, this document is valid. However, if we now activate our LLM-powered validation, so we hopefully see it detects, yes. So we see it, so LLM is perfect. It's large language model. And we use large language model to validate natural language, right? So it not only finds the problems, but also makes suggestions how to fix it. So we have a couple of rules implemented using this approach. So we check for inclusive language, we check for grammar. And when we talk about grammar, it's not like telling LLM, check grammar for me. No, so we have specific grammar rules in the company. So, for example, American English is preferred way to express descriptions, of course, spelling issues, and a bunch of other things, right? So, and we shape the prompts and find out the way how to make LLM validation feel and look more deterministic, because LLM, it's non-deterministic machine. So, and every time you ask, it may produce different results. However, I think we achieve the good results in this sense. And every time we press the validate button, it will show the same validation issues, which is important for validator tooling. And here, speaking about developer experience, once things get suggested, you can hover off the button and you see the preview in the code. So if you like the suggestion, you can just accept it. Similarly, there's other things. Once all issues eliminated, the document is valid again. And this is what we do for developers. So for our internal developers, again, this tool will be open sourced later this year. And it will make it available for our partners and customers who would be willing to use ORD, they could start using it. Okay, and another tool I would like to talk today is So we call it compliance monitor. So once we build the validator, so we thought, okay, so that's a good tool. So we ensure quality, developers using it, our aggregators integrated it. Okay, but how can we ensure that quality improves over time in the whole company? You know, the quality is also a moving target. So it's not like it's written on a stone. You implemented some policy level and then it's job done, right? So no, the policy levels appear over time, new policy levels get introduced, and we had to have some tool to ensure the quality, like API by API, people adopt the new rules we introduce. And yeah, so we call it adoption monitor or compliance monitor. So, and how it works. So we have a bunch of public APIs, what Simon showed you on api.sap.com. And we take those APIs, we run the validator tool, which I showed you before, and we generate compliance reports using all our policy levels. And here you could see, so there is some room for improvement for SAP Core 1, and we could see who follows what, and you can drill down to a specific compliance level. You could see which rules get violated. So my favorite one is invalid ref. So there is nothing worse than you have like open API file with invalid reference to missing object or missing file. So yeah, let's dig in. So here, okay, let's see, there is a Qualtrics, so not SAP anymore. So let's see what the compliance looks like, right? So this is internal tool again, but I want to give you idea how important quality for us at SAP and how seriously we take it and how seriously we monitor and track the compliance. So we see this particular package product has certain list of APIs, and I see for this API or like event subscription API, the situation could be better. So if I click on this, I see one policy level is fulfilled. However, there is a room for improvement here. And again, talking about developer experience, when product teams and developers look at this tooling, so what would be the next step for them? They, of course, see some violations, but we also connect our tools all together. So from this tool, they can open validator just by clicking this button. And we preload the artifact and they see exactly where the problem is, right? So I can click on the problem and I will be navigated to exact line and understand what the violation is about. So again, so in this central tool, we can also navigate through the rules, and we could see who else in the company violate the rule and reach out to those publishers, to those API owners to improve the situation. Additionally, what this tool helps us with, when we have ideas to introduce new compliance levels or validation rules, we can use this rule to run it in advance and see what the impact will be on the whole organization, which is kind of important. Because if we introduce rule just, because we think it's good, but it will cost millions of euros to investment to implement that, we need to think twice if it makes sense. So, and therefore this tool plays a crucial role in our quality assurance in the company. So let me go back to the slides. So just to sum up, so I just showed you API metadata validator. So this is one tool again to validate all metadata formats, starting from ORD down the tree to all specific metadata formats, Open API, Async API, GraphQL, and so on. So it supports various integration options, so Docker, HTTP, NPM, GitHub Actions, and so on. And we provide nice UI for cutting-edge developer experience. So, and second tool I showed you was tracking compliance. So we track global compliance in the company using this tool to ensure highest standards and highest quality of our metadata. So this tool also helps us to make decisions on the new rules. And overall, it helps to move this, I would say, chaos in the bright future, right? So we try to shape metadata and navigate it in the future-proof world. So well, that was the tooling. So Simon already briefly mentioned the ORD specification was open sourced and donated to Linux Foundation. It was donated in June this year. So now it's governed by independent entity. So we intentionally made it vendor agnostic. So it's not bound to SAP anymore, though we are the main contributor, obviously. But we invite also other companies and other vendors to join in the board and use and contribute to a specification. It's also funded by European Union initiative. Yeah. So this specification was presented on a couple of events recently. So one of those was in API World in Santa Clara in US and was recognized with this nice API award, which we accepted on behalf of our company, on behalf of SAP together with Simon last month. And yeah, that was it basically. So these are our LinkedIn QR codes. Please stay in touch with us if you have questions after the session. You can always reach out to us. Here's a QR code for Open Resource Discovery page, which Simon showed before. And we are open for Q&A. If there are any questions in the chat, let's go to it.
There are actually few questions, so we can get cracking with them. So I'll go just in order, basically, with the first one. So the first question is there a visualization tool to show the potential relationship between your enterprise applications? For example, one app has a dependency that matches another app's event API, for example. Do you have such a tool?
That's really a good idea. Or yeah. So we actually played with this. So problem is we can't talk roadmaps here, right? Because we are not the products team who can make promises. But yes, this is something we look into. And also for data products, it's interesting. So what is the potential lineage? Where does a data product get its data from, like its input ports? So that is obviously something that would be nice to visualize better. Important is that we have the connections, right? So that we know how things are connected.
Yeah, cool. Now to the next question. So it says the ORD Discovery API by default will have access to all the standard and custom data APIs metadata present, for example, in an S/4HANA system.
Yes, so it's not dependent on the protocols, but you can decide what you describe via ORD. And in case of S4, it includes all the OData APIs. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But not just that. Yeah.
Yeah, so because there are different versions of the OData APIs, right? And it also has events as well. But if we explore, like if you go to the Business Accelerator Hub, you're able to find even sub-web services for S4. Can we, are sub-web services included as part of ORD? Can we include them there?
So the
Yeah.
old ones, yeah, it's one of the supported protocols. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Awesome, that's good. There's another question here from Fabiano. Any plans to use ORD to expose metadata of custom Cloud Foundry apps in BTP?
So Pavel already mentioned this CAP ORD plugin. So if you build it with CAP, like in business in SAP Build, then the ORD exposure is there. I think we still have to think about how to connect it in a way that it's really secure. And this is something, can't make any promises, but we look into this, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if my understanding is correct, but in the end, it's up to like in the case of a custom app, right?
Hmm.
It's up to the application itself, the service itself, if they want to publish this so that it's already compliant,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
yeah,
The idea is if you develop as a partner or customer apps in the BTP, they should also show up in the system landscape of BTP, right? And if we have products on SAP side that can make use of the metadata to work better, to provide you more features or to save you efforts of manually copying things, then I think we should use that, yeah.
yeah.
So that's our and I think that's the possibilities of this, yeah.
That's quite cool. I just share a link in the chat regarding where you can find the details regarding CAP and ORD. So this is from the CAP documentation where you can find it. Um, Okay, and there is one additional question, which is from Alice. Is there plan on adapters bridges between ORD and MCP?
That's a tricky one because it's not at the same level, right? So there are bridges from MCP to OData and RESTful, and I've seen Alice work actually. I looked into some of your posts and projects. So ORD is on the level of understanding the application in more detail. So if you build an MCP around ORD, it would maybe for better understanding a particular application or understanding maybe your system landscape better. But yeah, I think that's where it would go if you would wrap it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's very interesting. It's interesting also that you share the details on how, for example, the specification is basically used and has been adopted between the different sort of SAP products, right? So I guess we can just expect more of that happening, at least internally, that will end up might end up being publicly available eventually. So that's exciting. Cool. We don't have, wait, there's one additional question regarding SAP Databricks publishes its data products metadata following ORD protocol. So this is a question. If Databricks publishes its data products metadata following ORD, do you know?
So the integration with Databricks goes via ORD to some degree, but it's hidden away. So in many cases, ORD is just a behind the scenes technology. And if you don't have to deal with it, it's actually better, right? So yes, so data sharing is is the protocol for data products APIs that we use with Databricks, and we know about data products and the overall descriptions through ORD syncing. Yeah.
Excellent. And yeah, those are all the questions that we have. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add?
Yeah, thank you for having us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out us LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Simon and Pavel, for sharing your knowledge and expertise as part of this session. It's interesting to learn more about the Open Resource Discovery. Congratulations to both of you as being part of the team for winning that award, which wasn't that long ago in the API world, right? I also want to thank the viewer for joining the live event or the recording of this event, which will be available in YouTube, obviously. friendly reminder is that there is plenty for everyone to learn during the Tourfest. So make sure to check out all the sessions that are part of the event, not just the integration track, but we also have anything that you're interested in the sort of SAP development world. It could be ABAP, CAP, RAP, SAP Build, data and analytics, AI. There's something for everyone there. So, and also even fun activities. So yeah, do check out all the sessions that we have available for you as part of the Tourfest. And thank you very much for joining.
Thank you for
Ciao.
having us. Thanks for the great questions.
Yeah, thank you. Say bye.